Hey everybody, it's Robot here from Vespa Motorsport and ScooterWest.com here in San Diego, California. So we're in my service center here in San Diego. I've done two other parts of this resurrection. It's not a full restoration, but a resurrection of a Vespa rally. It's been certainly sitting for over 25 years, and it's pretty much over 40 years old, the scooter itself. So if you look at the prior episode, I have some short videos of starting to tear into the motor and all the goo that was included with that motor. So we're a little further along. Let me show you the progress we've made. So all the parts of the motor have been thoroughly cleaned. The internal parts, they were all bead blasted. I'm sorry we kind of jumped the gun, but we just put the motor back together. And I have plenty of prior videos on overhauling a vintage motor. Didn't over finish the engine since it's not a full restoration, but sometimes depending on the level that we'd do, sometimes you'd walnut blast or bead blast, caustic soda. There's different methods to heavily clean really dirty engines. These were just pressure washed with some solvent and cleaned all the parts, cleaned the solvent tank. The internal parts were just bead blasted and then thoroughly cleaned. And pretty much put a brand new crankshaft in it, brand new cylinder and piston, overhauled the clutch, cleaned up all the gears, and miraculously they all came out to be pretty nice. Rewired the stator plate with all new wiring. It's the original Femsatronic ignition system that was only found on the Rally 200 from 1973 to 1976. A very short-lived ignition system that they had. The very first electronic ignition found on the Vespa. So the motor's ready to go into the frame. So what do we have to do to the frame to prepare it for a new motor? Like I said, this isn't a restoration. This is more or less a rustoration, as I like to call them. Leaving the original bodywork and finishes, but mechanically making the scooter sound. So we've left many of the original cable housings, which happen to be in really nice shape internally, and just ran new inner cables and greased them thoroughly. The whole entire frame's been pressure washed with very hot water to get all that old grime. I'll show you something else that's kind of interesting. This is the original sealed beam headlight. It actually still works, but this rubber gasket is turned into crumbly hard stuff. And believe it or not, I think we have these gaskets. That just keeps like the vibration of the headlight rim down, but pretty much everything that's rubber on these scooters is deteriorated. You know, these floor rails, they're like rocks and kind of deteriorating. So everything that's rubber, we've had to change, little grommets, all that sort of stuff. Some of the wiring we've had to go through. And the last thing I'll show you, the fuel tank. If you saw the fuel tank, it was pretty much full of that grunge as well. Just did a mechanical cleaning along with steam cleaning the tank. No acid washing, we were able to get it fairly clean. So here's the tank, and now that you look inside, you get a glimmer of bare steel. And that was all done with some simple cleaning. You know, obviously it takes some elbow grease to do that. If it was heavily rusted, we'd probably acid wash this tank, but we don't want to strip all the paint off the outside of it. So pretty much tank's all ready to put a brand new fuel tap in it, new fuel line, new oil line, put a new sight glass on there, get that all plumbed through in the frame, install the motor, and then the ultimate test to see how the motor runs. So look out for part 4. We should have the scooter on the road. And just to let you know, these videos are very short, the 4 parts that I'm doing for this scooter. It's not my project. If I was doing this, you would end up with several hours of video. And I have other videos that cover every step to restoring a vintage Vespa or rebuilding an engine, whether it's an engine of this period. There's only small differences between the motors. So pretty much a 1959 Vespa all the way up to the very last 2017 PX150. They're all very similar rotary valve, large frame engine, and there's only small nuances between the engines. So pretty much the videos I've done in the past cover how to do all the steps to get a vintage Vespa on the road. So someday, maybe I'll do a video series on restoring a small frame, including overhauling the small frame engine, which is very much different than the large frame Vespa engine and frame. Or even go on to the oddballs from the late 40s all the way through the 50s. They had tons of change. Year after year, Vespa was changing everything. So those are difficult scooters to restore from the 50s because they had so much change in all those years. Once we were in the 60s, it was pretty much smooth sailing for Vespas. Not much change year to year, mostly appearances and engine sizes. Thanks again for watching. Look out for part 4. Until next time, Robot here.